So within our divination series, we're going to be going over various ways in which you can connect with the other side and the many different tools that we have here on Earth at this time, with this video being dedicated to the runes. Now, the runes are native to the traditional Northern European culture, seeped within the pagan Norse world of gods and goddesses, elemental forces, giants, dwarfs, wizards, and warriors that inspired, among many, J.R.R. Tolkien in his fictional writing. So, having come into prominence some 2,000 years ago, the exact origin of the runes is somewhat of a mystery, but were known as a pre-alphabet, mostly used in old Germanic tribes in Europe, with the first discovery of the runes being around 150 AD, and it was then used up into medieval time, when Christianization came around, using the runes less and less, with the actual word rune meaning hidden or mysterious. And adding to its mystery, we have 3 poems where we get most of our information and find most of our correspondences related to the runes in particular. These 3 Icelandic poems being called the Eddas. From these 3 poems have come the 3 most common runic scripts that we get today. The first being the Elder Futhark, the second being the Anglo-Saxon Futhark, and then the Younger Futhark, with the oldest and most popular being the Elder Futhark, which is a 24-stave script and is the most common one if you go into a metaphysical shop or see anything about them online. That is the script most commonly and popularized today. And it's believed that this script in particular arose out of northern Alpine region, or Germanic tribes mixed with Roman influence, somewhere around 50 to 200 AD. But many have and do argue this with facts showing prehistoric sites around Northern Europe with objects showing a much more pictorial image, very similar to Sweden's Holristagara designs found on standing stones throughout the Scandinavian peninsula, with by far the majority ancient runic inscriptions found in Scandinavia. It would then make sense with the Elder Futhark making its way into the British Isles and more southern lands via tribal migration and Viking invaders, eventually leading to the expanded scripts that we have today. Now, it's worth mentioning that the runes themselves were used as sacred scripts to convey short messages and markers for magical purpose, as the tribes of the north were largely illiterate. So it wasn't necessarily being used as an alphabet system that we today most commonly understand alphabet system to be, pointing to the runes of a more symbolic nature than an actual written script. So through these ancient poems, which are very similar to the divinatory poems associated with each hexagram in China's I Ching oracle system, so by means of historical sources aside and focusing on the poems, how did the runes come into existence? Norse mythology attributes the discovery of the runes to the All-Father Odin, lord of inspiration, prophecy, and secret communication. Odin is like the Merlin of Norse literature. And as the mythology goes, Odin descends the world tree Yggdrasil, which is the axis linking all worlds, link down the roots into eventually making his way into Murmur's Well. Now, the waters of Murmur's Well carry a gift beyond compare, for its waters give the elixir of wisdom, or all-knowing. Now, the guardian of the well knows the powers of these waters, so in exchange for the wisdom, asks Odin to pluck one of his eyes from its socket in exchange for this power. Without hesitation, Odin agrees, and from this point, grabs a branch from Yggdrasil, fashions it into a spear, and chooses to wound himself with the spear and hang from the world tree for 9 days and 9 nights. On the 9th night, he was given the vision of the rune, for he had learned the mightiest of incantation, becoming the one-eyed god, master of mystery and magic and might, who knows in an instant the entirety of the past, present, and future. And as we can see through this story, the symbolic nature with the well being very symbolic of the human psyche, the spear being very symbolic of sending your willpower or consciousness into that part of self. The discovery of the runes is deeply imbued with the shamanic lore. So in the form of the runes, we have a unique inheritance from northern paganism, a set of divinatory tokens with esoteric and practical significance, a veritable spell book with magical operations in the form of the poems, and pointers to high pathways of higher consciousness, very much in alignment with the ancient Kabbalah and, as I mentioned, the I Ching system. One of the interesting things about the runes is the controversy that surrounds it. Historians, although have a lack of evidence that they were used for divinatory purposes, do have evidence that they were used among seers and for magical purposes, and do agree that it was probably likely that they were used in divination. And we see them most commonly used in old European folk magic, amulets, talismans, as well as we would see them on the side of Viking ships, on their helmets and shields used in battle to help aid protection and strength. Now, to fast forward into the future, it wasn't until 1902 that the rise of runes started to become more popular, particularly among Austrians and Germans. And it wasn't until Book of Runes came out by Ralph Bloom that pushed it even further into popularity. And now we've seen runes in advertising and logos, and see them in gym brands using particular runes, kind of harnessing that energy of a warrior that Vikings were very commonly associated with. And taking that similar idea of harnessing them as an energy helps to increase their potential in magic as well as divination. When we look at their meanings specifically, going back to the time period, we see a lot of meanings associated with nature. The sun, moon, harvest, abundance, also protection from the elements, a lot of seeped in nature, because at the time that was a big focus, bringing food, harvest, making sure that these crops stay through winter, etc. They can be drawn parallel to the Celtic Ogham, or the ancient Celtics' way of divination. It's a lot of nature-based, a lot of dealing with nature energies. The most common one, particular of runes, would be Fehu, which taps into the energy of abundance, wealth, and bringing that forward, which can be applied to using them today, adding another layer into divination, tapping into spiritual energies. That being said, I hope this video was helpful, and until next time.